So, just welcome from my side. Is this working? Yeah, it is. I know that Lars told you and Jan told you, but I guess you will believe it more if I tell you once more. I'm pretty happy to be on a presence conference again, and talking to all of you. Had already some nice conversations, so thank you for being here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Marcel Ahrens, and I'm currently in the product management of Tribe29. I'm several years with Tribe29, and as Matthias already said, we are now talking about system dashboards or dashboarding in general and the workflows in that. So in Checkmk 2.0, we already added a lot of new dashboard elements to visualize your data, and we added some other improvements. And we wanted to continue that drive and add in 2.1 in Checkmk some more features and some more things. And we thought about what could we do to make it easier for you to understand how the dashboards work in Checkmk, to encourage you to build your own dashboards. And by doing that, I want to show you the final of my talk as the first slide. So this is one of the dashboards we built for Checkmk 2.1. These are built-in, off-the-shelf dashboards for monitoring your Linux server group. I guess, I see it here too. Nice. And to work with that and see it as a starting point or as a usage if it fits already your requirements. And I have one question for you. If you look at this fine and cool looking dashboard, it's pretty useful. Who of you is encouraged and feels encouraged to build their own dashboard in Checkmk? Okay, that's not so many. Let's see if we can improve that. So when we built this dashboard, I saw at many customer sites that they are using dashboards in a pretty awkward way, and I asked myself, why is that? And maybe it's because sometimes you feel intimidated by building dashboards in Checkmk. And I think, personally, that has not to be. It's not necessary, because it's pretty easy, actually, if you understand some key things. And the first thing I want to start with is the dashboard elements, because this is obviously the first starting point. It's how you visualize your data in Checkmk on the dashboards. I need to focus on myself on this screen, not on this screen, I guess. So the first new dashboard element will be, or is, the inventory information. With the inventory information in a dashboard, you may add some basic information, some meta information of the things you're looking at, actually. It's to enrich your context with, for example, the OS server name, like you can see. Let's see if the laser pointer is working. Yes. Over here, or the operating system and the version of your server that you are working with. Could be very necessary to see that and to know that. Also to see your CPU cores, your interfaces, or the installed ROM. The second thing we added is the state information of single services or single hosts. And I guess everybody of you knows an example of when you have a server or a cluster or a group of hosts where some services are mission critical to the service that they are providing for the application or for anything else. And these services, these mission critical services, you may want to have on your dashboard, and with these elements that I'm showing right now, is this finally possible. And not only that you see immediately if your core service or your mission critical service is okay or crit or it has a problem, you also would be able to add the service summary to immediately see what's the problem and maybe also how to solve this problem. It's pretty perfect for aggregating information into one service. Some hint, you could also add a BI service into that. And if you can display the state of one service, obviously, you may want to display the state of several services or several hosts. And with this dashlet, or with this dashboard element, you're not only displaying what's the specific state of your group of hosts or your group of services, you already get an overview and the big picture of, again, the dashboard that you're looking at currently now. But there are not only new dashboard elements that we added. There are also dashboard elements in Checkmk that are pretty useful and pretty exciting and not used very often to its full functionality. One example is the host views. If you add host views or service views, you usually add the service name or the service summary, the host name, maybe something related to a host, like the summary of services, how many services are okay, one crit. But you could do many things more, like adding inventory information again to get an overview, or adding joint columns or columns in the host view that is displaying aggregated, minimalized metric data, like the performeter. And with this, you're not only displaying an aggregated view, some information or a lot of information, but you also could add links to that. So for each column in this example, you could add a link or you could add a tooltip. So by hovering over the host name, for example, you could add the IP address of what you are looking at, of this host. And one special view is the inventory view. So using inventory tables in your dashboard is actually pretty easy. Here I used the example of the operating system that the server has. And with this complex data, you have, again, an aggregated view and an aggregated state on your dashboard, a lot of information that may be useful to investigate your problem or to investigate what's happening. So I will ask this question again. Who of you, I need to look, feels encouraged now with knowing what elements you can use and with these some minor tweaks? Who of you feels comfortable to build your own dashboards now?
But only raise your hand if you hadn't raised your hand before.
Okay. So that's not many more. So obviously it helps not if you not just know the elements, but maybe we have the next topic. Checkmk, and I talked about it a couple of minutes ago with Matthias, has some pretty unique features. Features that distinct Checkmk from other tools. And one of the things is that Checkmk is aware of its elements and of the shown data. So if we look at a generic dashboard, we have some elements there, a single metric, and we have a time series there and a group of metrics. And usually the dashboarding tool does not know at all about anything that's inside of these dashlets or these dashboard elements. You could maybe add some variables to have a workaround for that, but in the end it's the same. You have a lot of manual effort to do to make that work and to connect all these elements. In Checkmk, that's not the case. Every dashboard in Checkmk has a context, and every dashboard in Checkmk is aware of the data it shows to you. You can filter it, you can limit the shown data, limit the shown hosts or services that are displayed in your dashboard. And that's pretty unique already. But that's a typical dashboard anyway. So you're showing random data, arbitrary data from one or more hosts. And so one thing that is an advantage if you have a context-based or a context-aware dashboard is that you also could say, I want to show a dashboard of a single object. A single object could be a host or a service or anything else in Checkmk. And with this single object, I already know that I have to care about one host only. I will come to back later, but in this example, I just have to set the host name on the dashboard as a context, and every dashboard element is showing the data automatically. One advantage is, if you are the user, you could just change the host name and use the same dashboard for a different host showing different data. You have a template in Checkmk for dashboards. And using these templates is one thing we have to keep in mind for later. But what's filtering in dashboards in Checkmk? So I talked about there as a context, it is aware of the data it's showing. And we have in Checkmk several levels of how the dashboard distincts what data to show. The most default, the upper level is the default filter of dashboard properties. But you can already limit the set of shown data or considered data in the dashboard properties itself and tell, I want to display my data for my load balancers only. This dashboard is for load balancers only. And additionally, you can also set a definition of required filters and say, okay, this dashboard needs this or that context, this or that filter, like a service or a host group to work. You need to fill that out. I cannot do that for you. The second line is the dashboard elements, and that's one thing you may not know. The dashboard elements are able to not only extend the filtering and extend what has to be shown, but also override what in the default filter has been configured. That's the word I'm looking for. And finally, on the user level, when you're opening a dashboard, you may want to change the context of this dashboard. You may want to change the host name. You may want to change the service or host group. And this is done here. And here again, you can make the use of all the power in Checkmk. In my generic dashboard, this means I add on a global filter my application A as a default filter, and I override this filter on my groups of metrics because I want to have context for a different application because it's necessary and depending on that. I could also add additional service as a filter. And finally, if I open the dashboard, I defined that the user may or is forced to add additional context to this dashboard to make it work. He's defining the host group or changing the host group. So let's go to a different thing before I come back to that now. So we are now about filtering. And when you open up a dashboard and you have the context that may be filled out, you have some different ways of accessing this data. So this is for all of you who are not familiar with that. So obviously you have the classical navigation over the menu of Checkmk, and that's the pretty standard way of navigating in any tool, using the menu. I do that all the time. But there in Checkmk, there are more ways to do that, more ways to access your data, because when I get my overview, for example, of the Linux hosts I already showed you, and I want to drill down, I want to see more details about one particular thing, it's a hard way and not a good workflow to just open the menu again, selecting another dashboard, and then again open the menu again and selecting a different dashboard to get my investigation ongoing. It's better to use, for example, the title of a dashboard element. I see I have some awkward things in my percentage of total service problems. I want to investigate in that case more in detail. It's more natural to just click on the title to investigate and to see a dashboard or a view that provides me more details about this specific thing. Or using a drill down by the views. Like I said, you could add links to these views and use these links to get to another dashboard or view. And one thing is pretty unique and pretty fancy in this case. If you click, for those of you who can't read that, there is this local host. It's no necessary information, but if you click on that link, on the host name, and you have a dashboard behind that, that is a single object dashboard like I told you before, and it's a single host dashboard, the filter, the host name is automatically filled out for you by just going through this link. And this spares you the effort to fill out the filter by yourself. And it's not only here, but the same link provides you the cloud dashboard of this host. To make that more visible, I made a short video. So that's the usual way you go navigate in Checkmk. You go to a dashboard and then you look at it and you see some data, and maybe you want to drill down using the dashlets, but maybe you only want to drill down to the host name and go by that. And this dashboard is a dashboard that has a needed context, and it's filled out automatically by clicking just on a thing. And you can further drill down to another view that is providing some more information about this specific thing. So this should not happen, this should happen. And I think that many of you may not be aware that they are using this feature every day. If you go to the all hosts and you click on one host, you get to a specific view that is providing you a specific information for just one host. It's the same principle as I showed you. And the same goes for dashboards. So using that makes your life very easy, or much more easier. But when you have these filters and you have these single dashboards and you may use the navigation directly in your dashboards, you may raise your question, why showing this dashboard in the monitor menu at all? And that's why we provide some functionality to actually not do that, to actually not showing a dashboard in the monitor menu. If you decide that's not necessary, I just use this dashboard as a context dashboard from another source. Or I use this dashboard occasionally, but not very often. I want to make that only visible in the show more part of the menu. And finally, just hiding it from the drop-down menus. I will explain in a couple of seconds a little bit more of the drop-down menus for those of you who are not familiar with this thing and ask themselves, what the heck? So navigation gets much more comfortable if you use this and if you hide things. You are not obligated to show all the stuff and all the cool features to your users at the same time. So hiding them from the menu could be useful. Hiding them, and that's the menu I was speaking of in the properties of a specific view. Hiding them there makes sense if this particular dashboard is useful only in a few cases, but you have 5,000 hosts, and for these 10, I don't want to add that in here. And finally, you could hide it at all and make it not visible at all in Checkmk if you're using this dashboard only on specific things, like a drill down on your dashboard element. Sorry, I had to look in my screen there. The V is gone. And finally, one thing that is left is the cloning of dashboards. And cloning of dashboards is a long story of some misunderstanding. So in Checkmk, you have some built-in dashboards. And with these built-in dashboards, you can work out of the box, and if they do not fit to you, you can customize them. And you do that by cloning the dashboards. These dashboards can be owned by other users if they share that with you. And these users or yourself can clone a dashboard that is built in and save it under the same ID, overwriting the built-in dashboard. And there's two things that are notable in this case. First of all, if another user is cloning a built-in dashboard and sharing that with you, he's not overriding your own built-in dashboard. But by sharing that with you, you are able to adopt this customization and say, okay, that looks cool, I want that too. And you can clone it yourself and make it one of your own. Also seeing other dashboards like he built or she built on their own and make it yourself. But be aware, there are some pitfalls when doing that. When speaking with customers as a consultant, I often saw that users wondered, why is my dashboard looking differently than one of my colleagues? I have no clue what's happening, and they just simply forgot that they cloned the dashboard, or simply forgot that they cloned their view. So you need to give your cloned or your customized dashboards or element views some attention from time to time, especially when upgrading to a different version. Taking a look, what's new, do I need that, do I want to adopt that? It's missing from you if you do that on the same ID, if you just override the built-in dashboard, even from Checkmk, but also from your colleagues. If he's making changes, take a look at that from time to time to see if you want to adopt that too. Another thing could be that you consider running these dashboards not on the same ID by overriding them, but giving a slightly different, unique ID to see the original dashboards and see that you made your customizations on that. You saw that on the slide before, I guess, when I made a different title. It's pretty the same, but it's slightly different so that you know it's not the original one. So again, two more times. Who feels now comfortable to build their own dashboards? with these things. It's getting a bit more, yeah? Don't be shy. Yeah, it's getting more. By building all these off-the-shelf system dashboards during the last year, I remembered some things that often makes persons feeling uncomfortable to building their own dashboards because it's not working like they expected that it's to work. So I noted some 5 best practices to build your own dashboards, because 5 is a very fancy number and it's easy to remember. But before I start, I want to highlight 2 things to fully understand all this stuff. So one thing is, we in Checkmk do have a one-screen dashboard. We do not scroll, and we force you to provide all the data you have to show on one screen. It has to be fit into one single screen. I repeat that so you can remember that in case you forgot. So that's implying that you focus on mandatory information in a dashboard. You have not unlimited space, one dashboard. You need to focus, is this information I want to provide on this dashboard absolutely necessary on this dashboard? What's my focus? What's the purpose of my dashboard when I want to build that? May I move that to a different dashboard for a drill down, for example, using these features I explained earlier to make that happen? And the second thing is how dashboard elements in Checkmk work. I've been told that it is too small, so I highlighted a bit better for you. I hope in the last lines you can see that. Each dashboard element in Checkmk has an anchor. That's the green thing up here. So there's actually an anchor. And this anchor tells you from which point a dashboard element is expanding, to the right and to the bottom in this case. And how is this dashboard element expanding is told by you with providing information. You could say it should be auto-sizing. So it sizes and expands until it hits another dashboard element and then stops. You could do it manually because this dashboard element does not benefit from expanding from different screen resolutions. So you limit it in the height, for example, or in the width. And finally, I'm aware that I'm not showing that here. You could say it should max sizing. So it should expand as much as possible to the end of the screen. And with that, I'm starting finally to the 5 best practices. So keep focused. The first best practice is group. If you're building a dashboard, group your elements with specific sizes in the upper left of your dashboard. So these dashboard elements have all auto width and auto height, but they are limited to the next element from the right or from the down, from the bottom. And this is grouped by 2 things. One is the next group by setting the anchor on the left upper right, on the left upper, I guess it is. And on the bottom, it's limited by the manual height that I gave them. So this is a group of elements. And this part of your dashboard naturally does not expand by having different screen resolutions. So you can place them here to make them kind of static. The second thing is that you use your tables that you want to implement in your dashboards to use the space effectively. So tables tend to do not profit from dynamic width because you have a specific amount of entries, a specific amount of columns in this table, and that sets the limit of the width. But these tables usually do profit from a dynamic height. So if you add them at the bottom, you have a mechanic to provide this dashboard for different screen resolutions on a full HD or on a WQHD, and this dashboard element at the bottom will expand accordingly to your screen resolution, making the dashboard fit to every resolution. The third thing is about time series graphs. So for time series graphs, it's usually the exact opposite of tables. They profit from a dynamic width, and they do not profit from a dynamic height. So place them in the upper right of Checkmk, of the dashboard, to benefit from different screen resolutions. When I made the system dashboards, I made the system dashboards to work on a full HD screen. By using different screens, this is no problem on this case, because on a WHQ resolution, they will just get bigger and provide you more insights on the metrics. Also, there's a second thing, see it as a side note. You can group two dashboard elements together next to each other, making them a group individually by having them here, the anchors I already mentioned, and on the right side, I will come back later. Somebody made this differently, so this should not be happen. Anyway, the fourth best practice. Use automatic scaling as often as possible. It makes your life easier. I will show you that in a minute, in a video. And use the manual dimensions to define your groups. I told you that in the first best practice when I made this group by providing a manual height on the bottom. You could also do that, I did that in the second group, and with this case, you may have full control over your different groups in your dashboard that you want to show. And just to make it more, give you a better feeling about that, I tried to show you that. So I'm going into the edit mode, and I can change the behavior of dashboard elements very easy by clicking on that and having an auto width or an auto height. I can click anywhere in dashboard element and just move it around. Every other dashboard element around that will behave accordingly and making my life much more easy by changing the behavior or the space dimensions in my dashboard, but just moving the element I want to change. And the fifth and last best practice I want to tell you, or I want to show you, is some things about the anchors. If you're having the opportunity to change the anchors from the upper left or from the upper right to the upper bottom right or bottom left, people tend to use that all the time. But let me say to you, keep the anchors in the upper left by default as often as possible. There are only two exceptions I would recommend to not to do that. The one exception is if you have a dashboard element on the very right of your screen. You want to fit that to the screen, so keeping that the anchor on the right makes sense. And the second exception is it's the last element on the bottom. So you have your border on the bottom. And believe me, I think that these are the only two exceptions you should change the anchor. And by doing that, I think it makes your life much more easy by building dashboards. I will ask this question one last time. Do not laugh, I'm serious. Who of you feels now more comfortable to build dashboards on their own? That's actually much more than last time. So next time I will have a talk about this third topic only. Okay.
It's very interesting because now we talked about the layout of the dashboard, and that seems to make more headaches than the actual content.
Yeah, as they should.
Yeah, I mean, this whole layout thing, I must admit, was my idea at the beginning. So screens have different sizes, you know, and when you create a nice dashboard for one screen and show it on another one, it looks like shit because much space is wasted or it doesn't fit. Or the other thing is, if your eyes get worse and worse, you tend to press Control+ to make everything bigger. And with this automatic layout engine, you have the same screen size, increase the font size, and everything still works. So the elements just the font gets bigger and it rearranges that still you have all the elements on the dashboard, but it works. So that's the idea behind this dynamic layout of the dashboards. And I think that's a quite unique feature to Checkmk. And it's a superset of the other dashboards. You can work with fixed sizes and fixed positions and everything fixed, which is very easy. But I think, as Marcel has shown, it's not too difficult to activate this automatic layout, and you really benefit from different screen sizes, even if you're the only person using the dashboard on just the same screen, because you can resize the fonts all the time.
Thank you. I'm in the lucky position to be young and dynamic, so I just usually make things smaller. But I guess it's the same approach. So last topic, I guess, off-the-shelf dashboards. Let's go to that. You saw that before, I guess. So this is an overview dashboard of Linux hosts. And this is not meant to be used with all your 5,000 Linux hosts to display them in one dashboard. It's meant to have a group that is connected to each other and has a context to each other. For example, my example of the load balancers. And with this dashboard, you get a quick overview of what's happening in this group. And if you want to have more details, you can also go, like I showed, into the second dashboard and the more specific dashboard of a specific host. And with this dashboard, you usually have to see more information because you are now DevOps or an admin of the server that is investigating of a particular problem because you're not looking at that randomly, I guess. And of course, we wanted, firstly, I wanted to consider all these best practices in these dashboards and also make that happen for both Windows and Linux hosts. So we tried to make it looking as similar or as the same as possible, even if we had to change some things to get you into the topic by, for example, not providing the CPU load because Windows does not know about that. It's called processor queue. Actually, side note, for myself, I understand that better than, Anyway. And of course, on the Windows single host dashboard, we did that too. And actually, I have no idea what to tell more about that because it's looking quite the same like Linux single host dashboard. But I hope with these custom and with these off-the-shelf dashboards that we provide you with Checkmk 2.1, and Martin will show you more later on. I hope I and we are encouraging you to building your own dashboards and sharing that with your colleagues and with other persons by maybe customizing our off-the-shelf dashboards or by building your own. And now I'm finished.